We are now ready to go back to the general debate concerning the report of the evaluation body under item 8. I now open the floor for committee members that would like to intervene. And I believe we'll still stick to the same time limit that we had of 2 minutes. Thank you very much. So the floor is open on item 8. The 2 minutes includes walking to the chair. We'll take the names. Please lift your, you can see. Thank you. Sweden, we got you. Switzerland, we got you. Botswana, we got you. I'll call them up. Paraguay, we got you. Brazil, we got you. Czechia, we got you. Mauritania, we got you. Slovakia, we got you. Vietnam, we got you. Yeah. You're right.
We can start with
No.
We can start with the 3.
Okay.
And then you close it.
Okay, we'll start with the first 3. So we have Slovakia, followed by Sweden, followed by Switzerland. So Slovakia, you can kick-start, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. So we are the first ones to break the ice. Okay. So first of all, we would like to express our appreciation of the great work done by the evaluation body with the invaluable support of the Secretariat. We are conscious of its increasing workload with the development of the dialogue process, as well as with the changes which will be introduced during the forthcoming cycle. We are grateful to those countries which decided to withdraw their files in order to improve the quality, which we consider a very good practice. Consequently, we note with appreciation that the files which have been withdrawn in the past and resubmitted for this cycle have been recommended for inscriptions at this meeting. We also welcome the increased role of the dialogue process in this cycle, used in 12 files. We understand that in some files that the dialogue process played an important role, seeking clarifications on more than one criterion. We would therefore appreciate it if the questions from the evaluation body and the answers from the submitting states in the dialogue process could be published at the same time as the rest of the documents, and subsequently, after their inscription, be attached to the respective nomination files as they form the integral part. This would allow the committee to fully undertake its decision-making role, having a better understanding of the dialogue process and its impact on the evaluation body's assessment. We would like to ask the evaluation body about the impact this increased use of the dialogue process had on its working methods and calendar, and ask whether they see it as a sustainable model, time-wise and capacity-wise, for the future. We are also pleased that all nomination files have received positive evaluation, highlighting at the same time the evaluation body's observation on the persisting cross-cutting issues presented in the report. We would like to ask the evaluation body, how do they interpret this amount of positive recommendations, as well as how this could influence the direction, in their views, of future implementation of the listing mechanisms of the Convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Slovakia. We'll take Sweden, followed by Switzerland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Sweden would like to thank the evaluation body for their thorough report and evaluations on the nomination files and proposals. Your work is a key factor to the success of the convention, its relevance and credibility. We would like to support the points raised by Slovakia. We would also like to raise 2 additional points. First, we would like to join the chair of the EB in stressing the importance of clearly describing the role of communities, groups, and individuals in safeguarding measures and when preparing files. Also, the current cycle has been identified as a family cycle where the role of women have been highlighted. While we do understand the importance of families and see all kinds of families as a setting where ICH can be safeguarded and transmitted, we would like to underline that women play many roles in society, not exclusively within family settings. We would therefore like to stress what is stated a bit further down in the report, the importance for state parties to provide sufficient information on gender roles to explain that the practices do not contain any discriminatory elements with regards to gender. Thank you.
Thank you, Sweden. We now have Switzerland, followed by Botswana.
Monsieur le Président, chers collègues, nous remercions l'organe d'évaluation par son président, sa vice-présidente et sa rapporteure pour la présentation détaillée des travaux menés pour ce cycle d'évaluation 22-23. La Suisse salue l'engagement, le temps et l'expertise que l'organe d'évaluation a consacré à l'examen des 59 dossiers de cette année. Le résultat tangible est tout à fait particulier cette année, avec une évaluation positive de toutes les candidatures. Cela est remarquable et réjouissant, et il convient de féliciter toutes les communautés, groupes et individus qui ont œuvré à l'inscription de leurs éléments. Nous souhaiterions pourtant mieux comprendre les facteurs qui ont permis d'arriver à ce succès d'ensemble et ce qui différencie peut-être ce cycle des précédents. Nous voyons bien sûr l'utilisation renforcée du processus de dialogue souhaité lors de la dernière session de ce comité comme une avancée notable et une raison pour ces recommandations positives. Permettez-nous d'adresser la question suivante. Est-ce que l'organe d'évaluation ou le secrétariat ont des pistes d'analyse permettant d'expliquer plus en détail cette amélioration globale de la qualité des dossiers de candidature? Quelles leçons peuvent être tirées de ce cycle particulier sur le plan des méthodes de travail et de l'évaluation des candidatures? Par ailleurs, et comme il a été souligné par l'organe d'évaluation, il est important de prêter une attention particulière aux remarques concernant le suivi des éléments une fois que ceux-ci ont été inscrits. Il s'agit d'encourager et d'accompagner les communautés pour la mise en place des mesures appropriées. En effet, les inscriptions ont été célébrées ces jours. Elles constituent une étape importante pour une meilleure sauvegarde des éléments inscrits, pour une participation renforcée des communautés et pour une plus grande visibilité du patrimoine culturel immatériel en général à cultiver. Merci beaucoup de votre attention.
Thank you, Switzerland. Before I give Botswana the floor, may I ask if there are any other delegation committee members that want to take the floor? Especially since we had some committee members celebrating the last file. Do we have any? No? So I'm going to close the list. I have Morocco. Okay, I'm closing the list from the committee members. Thank you very much. So now Botswana, followed by Paraguay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Botswana commends the evaluation body for the excellent work and further applauds the submitting state parties for submitting nominations of high quality as demonstrated by the files meeting the set criteria. We also recognize the excellent work done in revising the nomination forms, which enabled state parties to submit quality submissions. We would like to emphasize the importance of the dialogue process, and we commend affected state parties and the evaluation body for using this process. In conclusion, Mr. Chairperson, Botswana, however, notes with concern the declining number of applications for international assistance as demonstrated by one submission of more than $100,000 that was considered in this meeting. Botswana, therefore, would encourage communities, groups, and individuals to consider using the resources that are availed to them in order for the growth of the safeguarding of our living heritage. I thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Botswana. Paraguay, you have the floor, followed by Czechia.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Agradecemos al órgano de evaluación por el informe detallado.
Sorry, could Rwanda turn off their mic, please? Thank you very much. Okay.
Bueno, muchas gracias, señor presidente. Agradecemos al órgano de evaluación por el detallado informe. Felicitamos a sus miembros por el excelente y exhaustivo trabajo. Celebramos la plena aplicación del proceso de diálogo que ha permitido la recomendación de inscripción para todos los expedientes que han sido beneficiados con este proceso. Celebramos igualmente que se constate una mejora general en la calidad de los expedientes de candidaturas. Seguiremos apoyando las iniciativas para el desarrollo de capacidades en este sentido, a fin de lograr el anhelado equilibrio en las listas. Felicitamos a los países que han presentado candidaturas consideradas como buenos ejemplos. Destacamos que 2 de los 4 elementos inscriptos como buenas prácticas representan al GRULAC, Panamá y Venezuela. Y felicitamos a quienes presentan las candidaturas por primera vez. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Paraguay. We now have Czechia, followed by Brazil.
Thank you, dear Mr. Chairperson, dear committee members. First of all, we would like to express our sincere joy and extend our congratulations to all states whose elements have been inscribed this week. Elements that have been presented to us are so diverse and so interesting, just like the communities behind them. A particular commendation goes to the countries whose first elements have been inscribed, and especially to those whose files had been referred before and resubmitted in this cycle, because we have seen some impressive improvements which we believe reflect better understanding of the principles of the convention and also improved internal dialogue in those countries. We can see that the referral process that had been used in the past was useful and brought its fruits in this cycle. Although we do not miss the unfavorable recommendations, we realized that we missed a bit the constructive dialogue that reacted to the problems in the previous nomination cycles. Our role this year seems to have shrunk a little bit to an affirmation committee. In the past, we had many opposing or diverse opinions among the committee's members, which sparkled quite lively discussions. This year we felt that nobody wanted to raise their voice either in a negative or a positive sense, to comment on concrete aspects of the presented nomination files, probably not to spoil or to postpone the joy of the communities. Although we feel that there were some issues concerning the cycle as a whole or concerning particular files as well, which would be very interesting or important to discuss. The fact that we decided to inscribe all elements does not mean that we should resign from learning or moving forward, improving our safeguarding strategies or approaches to community engagement. We should keep reading the recommendations of the evaluation body very carefully and study its report to avoid mistakes or deficiencies in the future. We consider this year as a transitional one because next cycle, I believe that we will be using the new nomination files, and our experience can be completely different from what we had experienced before. This will probably bring greater facilitation to the procedure, but it can also bring us new challenges, so we are curious what they are going to be. We would like to close our intervention by congratulating the evaluation body for its uneasy and hard work. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your interesting report. and big thanks to the Secretariat for the relentless support of the whole nomination or examination process. And it is great to see so many elements from this beautiful and hospitable continent of Africa being inscribed this year. So once more, congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Czechia. We now have Brazil followed by Mauritania.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Tout d'abord, nous félicitons l'organe d'évaluation pour le travail accompli, ainsi que le secrétariat pour le soutien apporté à cette mission. Nous soulignons l'importance du dialogue entrepris à l'intérieur de l'organe et avec les États responsables des dossiers, afin d'établir un consensus sur les éléments présentés et de formuler des recommandations à leur sujet. Nous notons également des progrès importants dans la recherche d'un équilibre adéquat entre les responsabilités du comité et de l'organe d'évaluation, une mesure qui pour nous, au Brésil, est importante afin de préserver le caractère intergouvernemental des décisions du comité. De l'ensemble des thèmes présentés dans le rapport, il y a 3 points sur lesquels nous voudrions mettre en évidence et nous voudrions avoir quelques informations complémentaires. Quel est le concept de famille utilisé dans les processus d'évaluation mentionnés? Nous le demandons parce qu'il est important d'être conscient des préjugés ultra-conservateurs qui ont gagné du terrain au niveau mondial afin d'empêcher l'inclusion dans les listes d'éléments qui représentent des préjugés à l'égard des femmes et des communautés LGBT, par exemple. Une autre question. Est-ce que vous avez noté des problèmes particuliers sur le sujet de la relation entre patrimoine culturel immatériel, développement durable et des intérêts des grands groupes économiques? Nous croyons que cela constitue l'un des principaux défis de la Convention pour construire un monde meilleur, en évitant l'exploitation économique du patrimoine culturel par ceux qui n'en sont pas les détenteurs, et surtout en respectant la souveraineté des peuples et des communautés lorsqu'il s'agit de choisir leur modèle de développement. Le 3e point est lié aux aspects surnaturels cités dans le rapport. Nous pensons qu'il est important de suivre l'évolution des discussions sur les relations entre les humains, les non-humains et les plus humains dans les sociétés multiespèces, ainsi que l'évolution des cadres juridiques qui reconnaissent des droits aux êtres naturels. Pour finir, nous soutenons l'appréciation légitime de la qualité technique et textuelle des dossiers, mais nous sommes très préoccupés par les demandes qui, bien que techniquement bien fondées, risquent d'inscrire sur les listes de la Convention des pratiques culturelles qui violent les droits de l'homme dans leurs dimensions de genre, de race, de travail décent, etc. À cet égard, nous réaffirmons que les droits culturels doivent être toujours inclus dans le cadre plus large des droits de l'homme. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Brazil. We now have Mauritania, followed by Vietnam, and followed by Morocco. Mauritania, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais juste également me joindre ma voix aux intervenants précédents et remercier l'organe d'évaluation pour le rapport détaillé et rigoureux qui nous a été présenté et pour le travail remarquable qui a été effectué en préparation des travaux de cette session. Il est vrai que ça a pu en fait nous permettre à nous tous aujourd'hui de voir l'impact positif qui a été en fait effectué via en fait cette nouvelle approche positive de l'organe d'évaluation. Je voudrais également en fait féliciter en fait les États partis pour également la qualité des dossiers qui ont été soumis, des éléments soumis, qui a permis bien évidemment et peut-être faciliter également le travail de l'organe d'évaluation. Je voudrais juste également me permettre au nom de ma délégation remercier le comité et l'organe d'évaluation pour l'assistance et le soutien de la Mauritanie tout au long de ces travaux-là. Éventuellement, ce que nous avons vécu aujourd'hui, qui fait pour nous en fait un événement historique. Donc, l'adoption de la Mahadra en tant qu'élément sur la liste représentative du patrimoine culturel immatériel de l'UNESCO. Également, je voudrais les remercier pour l'appui conséquent qui a été fourni dans le cadre de l'assistance internationale du Fonds du patrimoine culturel immatériel, qui a fait également jouir la Mauritanie de ce fonds et donc qui a été soutenu dans ce cadre. Je pense que le conservateur national ici présent avec moi aura l'opportunité d'en discuter plus amplement lors de nos travaux prochains. Je voudrais juste également dire que nous sommes satisfaits donc, de ce processus également de dialogue instauré et souhaitons le voir bien évidemment renforcé, tenant compte de ce qui a été nettement observé comme amélioration dans le cadre des processus et de candidature et d'adoption et de validation. Et donc, comme déjà peut-être signalé, je ne voudrais pas prendre beaucoup de temps parce que je sais que d'autres intervenants auront à prendre la parole, mettre l'accent sur le fait que nous souhaitons que les États parties sous-représentés les voir également bénéficier de mesures appropriées qui permettent qu'ils soient mieux intégrés et que nous tous puissions effectivement veiller à ce que en fait, la sauvegarde du patrimoine vivant immatériel soit préservée. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mauritania, Vietnam, and then Morocco.
Thank you, and dear Mr. Chairperson, Vietnam highly appreciates the wonderful efforts and comprehensive report of the evaluation body and the assistance of the Secretariat in 2023. Furthermore, we are also optimistic about future success of the new evaluation body at the 18th.com. In this celebratory spirit of the last 2 days, it is gratifying to note that for the first time in the implementation of the listing mechanism of the Convention, on 56 submissions reviewed by the committee subsequent to the evaluation body's assessment have been inscribed smoothly. The successful execution of the dialogue process is duly acknowledged and appreciated, as it has significantly contributed to enhancing the overall efficiency of the evaluation procedure, culminating in more favorable outcomes. Vietnam welcomes and supports the continuation of the Green Circle, given attention to the symbiotic relationship between culture and nature. We also acknowledge and promote the rights and empowerment of women and girls, the growing role of community and youth in safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage. Vietnam supports the proposed decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vietnam. We now have Morocco as our last speaker from the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais d'abord commencer par saluer et féliciter l'organe d'évaluation pour l'exceptionnel travail accompli. C'est un travail qu'on a pu voir évoluer extrêmement positivement. Et c'est pour cela qu'aujourd'hui, évidemment, il y a eu des questionnements posés par les membres du comité sur le fait de pourquoi il n'y a pas eu de referral cette année. C'est parce que je pense qu'il faut saluer tous les efforts qui ont été accomplis par les uns et les autres dans un esprit constructif. Ce qui a été fait, je pense que les échanges positifs, constructifs que nous avons eus entre nous, membres du comité et l'organe d'évaluation, ont porté le fruit et continueront, j'en suis sûr, à porter leurs fruits. Et je voudrais saluer ici le travail d'accompagnement, de conseil et évidemment les processus de dialogue ouverts par l'organe d'évaluation et qui ont fait que, et c'est ça qui fait la beauté de cette convention de 2003, apporter de la joie dans les cœurs des communautés, parce que l'être humain est au cœur de cette convention. Et quand on voit depuis hier ou avant-hier la joie des communautés qui portent ces éléments inscrits. Je pense que nous devons nous estimer heureux et être convaincus que nous sommes sur la bonne voie, parce que nous avons réussi à travailler à travers un esprit qui est spécifique et particulier à cette convention de 2003, qui est différente de la 72 dans son approche. Et je pense, et je le salue, que l'organe d'évaluation l'a très bien compris, et l'approche est différente et autrement plus ouverte, plus interactive, et c'est ce qui fait qu'aujourd'hui, nous sommes tous heureux, et j'en suis profondément moi-même heureux, parce que ce sont des choses qui touchent et qui vont directement droit au cœur des uns et des autres, parce que l'humain est au cœur de cette convention de 2003. Je salue également, bien sûr, l'ensemble du travail fait par le secrétariat, parce que c'est un travail d'équipe, c'est un travail auquel tout le monde est impliqué, et je pense que nous devons continuer dans cet esprit dans les années à venir. Aujourd'hui, c'est nous, ceux qui viendront derrière, je pense, devront poursuivre ce travail, parce que c'est une belle convention qui doit être défendue, qui doit être préservée. Et c'est aussi et surtout grâce à vous, grâce à votre esprit, grâce à ce travail que vous accomplissez, que vous apportez la joie dans le cœur des gens. Merci infiniment pour ce bonheur. Merci.
Thank you very much for your questions. I will hand the floor to the evaluation body to answer those questions that were put to them, but there are also one or two questions that are put to the ADG and his team. So the evaluation body will answer first, and then we'll switch to the Secretariat. So over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you, members of the committee, for your questions. Let me also begin by thanking you for the comments you have made, and we do recognize we do appreciate the positive comments, and we also appreciate the concerns. I will give a response to as many of the questions as I have in front of me, and if I miss any, please feel free to take the floor again in response. I'll begin with the question posed from the delegate from Brazil on the question of family. In the beginning of the presentation of the overall report, I made a reference to an indexing that had been done by the Secretariat about the family concept. That in itself did not influence the evaluation of the files. It was an indexing that was done after or post-evaluation, so that did not, but in my remarks, what I did say, just so that our understanding is clear for everybody, what I did say was that family in all its meanings, in all the ways that family can be interpreted. So those were my precise words at the beginning. In the second issue regarding gender, I believe it was a delegate from Sweden that raised the question of gender. And the subsequent responses I will give, I want to give it in a proper context. If you examine the experience of the members of the evaluation body in this particular cycle, and as you have always done, you will see that the NGOs and the members have, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're calling into question the expertise of the members of the evaluation body, but you will see that it is comprised of persons who have been with the convention for many years and have been tracking the discussions and the advocacy that has been put forward by members of the committee in successive cycles. So, I say that to say that those thought processes were certainly a part of the thoughts and the deliberations and debate that occurred within and among the members of the evaluation body. So now to the issue of gender. The evaluation body members were keen in trying to make assessments about whether or not a particular gender were marginalized. I know these are some of the concerns. There was marginalization, there was a deliberate, there may have been opportunities for abuse and so on. And those debates did happen. And based on our debates, there was no instance where we could determine that this was the case. However, what we do embrace about your statement is that in the future, it should be stated rather specifically that there is no part of the element that discriminates or marginalizes any gender. And I think that should be a part of the practice, and I think that is a recommendation that is well received. So we appreciate that comment for sure. On the matter of supernatural, our reference to supernatural in the overall report, it was, if I could give you a bit about where we were coming from on this matter of the supernatural. We are aware that the supernatural concepts are a part of many of the ICH elements that have been presented in this cycle and in the past. And we appreciate that. And so we're aware as well that because of customary practices that may exist within particular communities, groups, and individuals, that certain aspects of those might not necessarily be shared in the file. But when it is referenced, however, which is the choice of the state party and that is submitting on behalf of the states, when it is submitted, it is within our purview to see how that is a part of the element that is being submitted for inscription. And so what we do is that we make we try to use that to factor into how we understand the element, and that is why it appears in the overall report. If it appears there, it would be good for us to be able to see the connection as it relates to the element. So those are the parameters under which we debated and understood the matter of supernatural.
Is the connection between ICH and economic talk? Yeah, just take that.
Okay, so on the question of ICH, livelihoods, and big business, you will notice our comments on over-commercialization. Over the past, we have seen in many nominations, we have seen this issue of where an element might appear to be, could be at risk of being over-commercialized. And when we evaluate these files, it's the same thing that we do, and certainly we appreciate the perspective that you have provided. We look as well to see, okay, is there some potential here? And I can think of files specifically, but I will not speak of them individually. We look to see, okay, is there some agenda here that perhaps some business entity may be behind the sponsorship maybe of an element and so on. But how we can only do that based on the information provided in the file. And what we do instead is try to counter that assessment by looking at how communities or how well communities appear in the assessment or appear in the presentation of the nomination itself. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. If, for example, you have a process, the videos and the videos in particular, which gives you a visual, if that shows, for example, the semblance of an over-commercialization, that could be a possibility, we would look to the nomination process. What does the nomination process say about the involvement of communities? What does R3 or U3 say about the communities being involved in the development, in the implementation, and the implementation of the safeguarding measures or safeguarding plans? So, as you could imagine, it is we have to weigh the information that is available to us. So this is the process, but it is a concern for us, and it's very interesting because when you look at Chapter 5 of the text of the convention, for example, the convention talks about making an effort to, you look at Chapter 5, you will see the reference to ICH and its connection to livelihoods and so on. And so we do, in the past few years, you would have seen it appear in the overall report about the references to the importance of the connection and the relationship between ICH and livelihoods. As a matter of fact, I understand that a guidance note is being developed as we speak about this issue of ICH and livelihoods. So we are very much aware, and we do not wish for communities nor the elements to be prejudiced or put at risk in terms of this particular risk. And so you will see general statements within individual files that say, okay, because we don't know for sure, but you will see statements about mitigating against the risk of over-commercialization. We assume that every state submitting understand that a part of the process of submitting, because they are signatories to the convention, the primary function of their submission is the safeguarding of the element itself. And so these are some of the assumptions that we make right up front. Now to the big question of the overwhelming positive, the overwhelming 100% situation. I myself missed the debate, to be honest. I missed the debate of the committee. But it is a very paradoxical situation that is unfolding in the convention. Ever since the ratification and development of the convention, you will all note that the convention has been progressing from one development to the other, from subsidiary body to evaluation body to all the working groups and so on, all with the purpose of increasing the number of inscriptions to the various lists and register. Every year, this is an issue. It just so happens that in our perspective, that in this particular year, this is why we reference it as a transition year, because we do not know what will happen in the subsequent years. I will describe for you now the conditions that unfolded in this current year, in this current cycle. In our assessment, states have dealt well with R1, and you will see that R1 are seldom in your own assessments of the nomination files. You will see that R1 was well dealt with in the overwhelming majority of the files. There were issues, only a couple instances where through the Secretariat we had issues of the title changes and so on. Those are usually dealt with through R1 scenarios. R2, as we had mentioned, there was no state in this particular cycle either that was prejudiced based on the assessments of R2, because the General Assembly had already approved changes for the new cycle, and it would be of no benefit to the states to hold them hostage on the matter of R2. Now, even though in the last cycle, the evaluation body did take that approach, in a few instances, we were forced to still comment on R2 because of its connection to R1 in terms of the visibility of the element itself. And so in this year, however, the nuanced change was that we did not prejudice any file on the basis of R2. I go then to R5. I'm counting in an odd way, 1, 2, and 5. In terms of R5, U5, the question of inventories, we also noted that the overwhelming majority of states have understood and have mastered the concept of inventorying. Only one of our dialogue questions, if I can recall, only one, possibly two, was directed at the question of inventorying, and there was only one comment about periodicity that I can think of off the top of my head. Well, I won't say it specifically, but there was only one question in that regard. So states have overwhelmingly understood the concept of inventory. We noted that there was an overall improvement of the files presented. Then on the question of U3, R3, U4, R4, Essentially, if you look at our assessments of 1, 2, and 5, it meant that most of our work, after evaluating the whole file, it meant that we were, in effect, evaluating U3, R3, U4, R4. That is where the bulk of our evaluation went. And so when you ask the question, delegate from Slovakia, when you ask the question about and Sweden, about the role of communities, that is where our assessments went. So you will see in the dialogue questions and its role in the process, when it was asked what role did it play, it was crucial in this cycle because of the 12 dialogue scenarios, we had 22 questions, and the bulk of them were based on this question of the role of communities in developing safeguarding measures and plans, and the implementation of safeguarding measures and plans, and their role in the nomination process. There was one caveat to that explanation. One caveat, one nuance was this. There were a couple scenarios where states would have, some states deployed what was called a copy-paste scenario. Well, not some, but one, a copy-paste. So in terms of where the response about the development of safeguarding measures and so on was involved, they put the same response in the nomination box. And so that, of course, required further questioning. But overwhelmingly, it came down to the fact that in this cycle, we were dealing with R3, U3, R4, U4, because the other R1, R5 were well dealt with, R2 we didn't do anything with, and that in part explains what I think was the overwhelming positive response. Now, how do we view it? I would say that we view it in a positive way. I would encourage states to view it, to look at the analysis of it. There will be subsequent cycles, and let's see what unfolds, because new forms will be evaluated, new working methods will be introduced, and let's see where it goes. If you see that the trend continues or there are variations of it, that might tell us that there might be need for a new direction. But that is just my assessment in my capacity as chairperson of the evaluation body. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to the Panama. I close the list.
I will try to be.
I'll give the floor to the ADG and then we are going to adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Only to have the elements that member of the committee has asked, so that we can go take a little bit of air. Lo voy a decir en castellano, así que permítanme en español. A ver, primero quiero agradecer a Nigel todo lo que les dijo y les trató de explicar con respecto al proceso de este año. Yo creo que es equivocado pensar que este año es el permanente de aquí en adelante. Tal como se dijo, ustedes como Estados miembros han hecho un trabajo muy grande para revisar la metodología de los años que vendrán y por lo tanto estamos empezando un ciclo que es distinto y hay que tenerlo en cuenta para que no se acostumbren a esto. Eso por un lado. Segundo, yo no sé si, yo diría que no hubo diálogo, porque supongo que todos ustedes y sus expertos leyeron todas las candidaturas, por lo tanto tienen claro qué es lo que recomienda el cuerpo de evaluación con respecto a cada uno de los dossiers. Y por lo tanto yo creo que esta convención, si hay algo que se ha aprendido, es que uno aprende de las lecciones del pasado. Ustedes recordarán exactamente hace un año, y el embajador de Marruecos sí se va a acordar, tuve un proceso bastante complejo durante el 8A, y sobre todo, el 8A sobre todo, porque aparecieron todas estas discusiones, si se respetaba o no el agreement que teníamos, y tengo la sensación que se nos comparó con lo que pasa en el Comité del Patrimonio Mundial. Y definitivamente este comité es distinto. toma en cuenta las comunidades, trabaja en base a las comunidades y lo ha hecho desde el día que se implementó o se le dio vía como un instrumento normativo. Por lo tanto, no lo tomen como un ejemplo. Yo creo que sí hay diálogo, contrariamente a lo que ustedes dicen. Una cosa es no enfrentarse uno a otro, lo otro es poder dialogar en torno a las lecciones aprendidas. Lo segundo, respondiendo y complementando lo que dijo Nigel, con respecto al tema de la familia, hay una confusión. El año pasado era el green, ¿cierto? Era el verde, ¿no? Green, sí. ¿Cómo se hace? ¿Cómo el secretariado, porque no son ellos los que definen, o sea, lo definimos en conjunto, cuál es el año de? Se hace en base a un instrumento que yo debo recordar que fue financiado por Holanda, que es el Dive into Living Heritage, que es el gran instrumento que inventamos hace un par de años y que nos lleva a esta constelación en torno a los lenguajes utilizados en los dossiers que nos pueden referir a un cosmos específico, si es género, si es familia, si es verde, si es animales, lo que ustedes quieran. Y por lo tanto este año, mayoritariamente, todas las referencias hacían a la transmisión intergeneracional y por lo tanto es por eso que aparece. Pero no aparece familia, mujer, aparece familia, mujer y no me acuerdo cuál es el tercero. Pero no confundan, en ningún lado se ha dicho que familia es sinónimo de mujer, por lo menos nosotros no lo entendemos así. Por lo tanto, yo creo que ahí hay que tener cuidado y les recuerdo que tenemos este instrumento maravilloso que hoy día está dando nacimiento al Dive into Heritage que estamos desarrollando con Arabia Saudita, pero que era cómo podemos sacar una configuración de los elementos que están inscritos en nuestra lista y que dialogan entre sí. Eso con respecto a eso. Con respecto a lo pedido por Eslovaquia, absolutamente, y dicho por Bangladesh en el día de ayer, si no me equivoco. Por supuesto, a partir de ahora, tal como usted lo pidió, y me parece muy bien que la decisión se ponga, porque eso nos obliga a hacerlo. Si usted me pregunta por qué no se hizo en los últimos 2 años, no tengo explicación, problemas técnicos, dígale lo que quiera. No era falta de transparencia, es simplemente como no había un pedido y estamos desbordados, no se hizo. Nos parece súper legítimo que los Estados miembros pidan transparencia total y que no se ponga 3 días antes de la reunión, sino se ponga una vez que ya se tuvo el diálogo, porque no hay nada que esconder. Ese diálogo lo inventamos entre todos justamente para llegar a este momento de celebración de elementos que puedan ser inscritos y que podamos hacer su seguimiento para la salvaguardia. Es el propósito de esta convención. Por lo tanto, de todas maneras, cuenten con eso. El secretariado ya lo tiene incluido en las tareas y el cuerpo evaluador también lo considera como un aporte a la transparencia del diálogo que se sostuvo. Y finalmente, un último elemento que quería decir. Si llegamos a tener el 100%, no es solamente por las condiciones que se dieron. Habían 59. Tienen que saber, porque a veces se confunden los roles, el secretariado también tiene que trabajar con su Estado miembro para no ponerlo a usted en una situación de conflicto. Por lo tanto, todo lo que se puede hacer a través de la diplomacia cultural, que es poder conversar con los Estados parte, que someten un dossier que tiene una evaluación negativa y que por la experiencia les podemos demostrar que cuando lo vuelven a presentar 1 año o 2 años después, ese dossier, gracias a los comentarios del Evaluation Body, es capaz de formular un buen proyecto para que sea una celebración como lo fue hoy día, pues bien, eso es parte del trabajo del secretariado. Si hay un deferral, yo sé que a usted le gusta el diálogo, pero ¿para qué lo vamos a poner a debatir entre regiones contra regiones si estamos todos de acuerdo que ese dossier que tiene que ser inscrito porque estamos seguros que tiene todos los elementos necesarios para que las comunidades puedan hacer la salvaguardia? Por lo tanto, ese trabajo que no existe para usted es un trabajo arduo y yo creo que es parte de lo que ha construido la maravilla de esta convención. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Okay, before we adjourn, no, I've closed the list. I'm adjourning for the evening. I might give you a chance tomorrow. We haven't closed the item. The observers also have to talk. Before we adjourn for the evening, I made an announcement earlier today talking about trying to contribute to the local cuisine. You were invited to a fish feast combined with other traditional foods, which costs about 10 euro or so. And if you are still interested, the buses are waiting for you outside to take you there. So you could go straight from here. And they're expecting you. There will be drinks, cash bar and everything, and some traditional dances and stuff. So you're most welcome to go and sample what Chobe has to offer. I was told they were going to put the thing on the screen, but it's not there.
It is.
It's there.
It is.
Oh, there, it's over there. I think you can see a taste of Chobe. So you are most welcome. Please, those of you who can find the time to go there, it will be, in fact, a good gesture on your part. You are most welcome, and thank you. Yes. Then I'm giving the ADG the floor to make some other housekeeping announcements. Of course, there are other side events as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Only so that we know what will happen. I know that we have the meeting of the Bureau. As you have seen, we have not given the floor to the observer. It's come tomorrow, and then the decision. So we are continuing with point 8. On the side events, we have, apart from this one, we have the ICH NGO Forum is organizing its General Assembly in room Okavango 1 it was at 5:30, it will be when we go out. ICH-CAP is holding a roundtable on the Global Higher Education Network in the Moana Bateleur, room 2 at the Moana Resort, the hotel that is near. Spain is organizing a seminar on the management of intangible cultural heritage in Spain in the Bureau room opposite to the plenary at 5 right now. Morocco is inviting participants to a musical performance to celebrate the inscription of Malhoum, and we saw a little bit tonight on room Okavango 2 at 5:45. And Crespial is holding a project presentation and seminar in Rue di Copello 2 at 6 p.m. This will be dedicated to safeguarding the intangible cultural heritage of African descendants in Sika region and Cuba. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, and thank you, and good evening to you all, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.